Principal Robin Wall to come lead us in the pledge.
My favorites.
If everyone would please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Wall. So we do have a quorum with us. We have one board member who's MIA right now, but we have a quorum. And so a couple of meetings ago, we stopped reading the consent agenda. We will continue with that practice. And so I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented on your agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda item number 1.
Okay.
Or we're going to go through each of the
No, you
shorter?
don't have to do it. You just say just to
The
approve
consent agenda?
Yeah.
Okay, I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
All right, and do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. All right, any discussion around that? Okay, can I get a show of hands, all in favor of approving the consent agenda as presented? Okay, that's a unanimous decision. Thank you very much, everybody. Oh, I can say this now, ladies. Okay, next on the agenda is one of my favorite things. You may or may not know, if you're not in the band world, you don't keep up with this kind of news, but we have an award-winning band in our midst tonight. And the McGavock High School Band won the COC, the Contest of Champions, in November. And that is really difficult to do, I will say. It's not the easiest thing to do. Been there, done that. So I wanted to make sure that we recognize these band parents, band members, band directors tonight with this proclamation. And so I'm going to go ahead and read it. Whereas the McGavock High School Band has, for many years, attained a national reputation for both musical excellence and artistic precision, and whereas the McGavock Band maintains a robust year-round music program that educates students while at the same time entertaining and delighting audiences from the marching field to the concert stage, and whereas the McGavock Band continues to this day to excel in competitions against other elite high school marching music ensembles, and whereas the Contest of Champions, established in 1962 and held for the past 57 years on the campus of Middle Tennessee State University, is regarded among the most prestigious of marching band competitions, and whereas former Governor Buford Ellington named the trophy awarded to the highest scoring marching band from the state of Tennessee, the Governor's Cup, and whereas the winner of the Governor's Cup shall be recognized as a state champion marching band, and whereas the McGavock High School Band has in 24 prior years, dating back to 1972, won the Governor's Cup. And whereas on Saturday, November the 2nd, the McGavock High School Band, under the able direction of Mr. John David Hazlett and Mr. David DePriest, along with numerous other talented coordinators and instructors, won the Governor's Cup and was also named grand champion for winning the highest overall score in finals competition. Therefore, be it hereby proclaimed that the Nashville Metropolitan Board of Education recognizes the excellent work of the McGavock High School Band and all those associated with the program, including directors, staff, administration, parents, and especially the students. The board salutes these efforts and hopes for continued success. And I got through that without crying, so I would ask that the directors come forward and say a few words.
Thank you, Anna, for those kind words. And it was a great season for the students and the parents. And most of all, I think the audiences, our show really connected this year. And that was highlighted with the rewards at the end. And we had great students this year and staff and other directors here. So thank you so much.
Mr. Priest?
Thank you so much.
And this is our head drum major this year. He's a senior. He's a great player and marcher. This is Jeff Griggers. You want to say anything, Jeff?
He's like,
Thank you. I'm just glad to have been a part of the program. It's been a great season.
thank you.
Well, and as I said in my announcements last week, if you have ever been a band student or been a parent of a band student, you know how incredibly hard these students work, how these band directors work. It's not for the faint of heart. The hours are long and tedious. I know, because been there, done that as well. So I know that our boys were both of them went through the McGavick band, and I think that my husband and I got as much out of it as they did. So we really do, you become family because you spend so much time together. So, kudos to the band. If you want to do a picture off.
Let me say one thing, too. I just want to tell you guys, thank you for what you guys are doing over at McGavick. Now, I wasn't in the band, but I attended McGavick High School. So that's my school. So I graduated from there. So while the band was out there practicing, I ran track. So I will watch you guys. I will watch the band practice, and I mean long hours of practicing. So I'm so excited. So I wasn't a band member. I was a track star. Yeah. Y'all didn't know that, did you? Over at McGavick. So congratulations to you guys.
And so I would entertain someone to move that we adopted this resolution honoring the McGavick band.
Moved.
Okay, and can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion around this? Okay.
As a former marching band person, I totally understand the pain. And I did percussion, so I had to carry the tenor. So anybody knows that's 4 drums. So my heart goes out to you, and congratulations, I'm very proud of you.
Thank you. Can we get maybe the band directors and the Mr. Wall?
Can we take a vote first?
Huh?
Get the vote.
Oh, can we take, all right, all in favor?
So excited.
Okay, all in favor? Show of hands. Thank you, ladies. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Oh, this is from A.T. Kelly when we did that marker. Oh, yeah. It's just the families in. Thank you. Damn it. I didn't get a chance to read the whole thing. I just did it.
We do appreciate y'all taking the time to recognize these folks. I've always said at McGavick since I've been there, I didn't realize what band entailed until I came to McGavick. And I've always told my football coach, if you would practice half as hard, we'd probably be state champions in football as well. Well, it's the amount of time that they spend out there marching. Those kids are out there day in and day out. They're early in the morning, late in the evening. If you go by it Tuesdays and Thursday nights, they're out there till 9 or 10 o'clock at night because the neighbors call me and say, when is band season over? So that they can get some sleep. But thank you so much for recognizing these guys for the amount of work they put in. It's unreal. And the time they give these kids and the time the kids put into this program, it's just unbelievable that they have that kind of dedication. So we're very proud of what they've been able to accomplish. Oh, and on another note, Ms. Shepard, Superintendent Battle, thank you so much for getting that announcement made about the 3%. Teachers went home with a happy Thanksgiving. That was a good thing. Thank you all very much.
Yeah, it was a happy morning today for sure. We have notice of charges of dismissal. Ms. Harkey, would you like to come to the podium, please?
In your packet, you have a letter that Dr. Battle has actually sent out where she is recommending the dismissal of Mr. Clinton Cummings based on, after charging him with misconduct or conduct unbecoming a member of the teaching profession, insubordination, inefficiency, and neglect of duty, which are all grounds for dismissal pursuant to 49.5.511. What is being asked of you tonight is not asking you to weigh the evidence at all. What we're asking is that you merely vote that the charges, if they are later proven true, if they warrant dismissal. So tonight, you're just being asked to certify the charges against Mr. Cummings, and obviously, he was already provided with the notice of charges that you found in your packet, so that he knows what he has been charged with.
Does anybody have any questions of Ms. Harkey around this? Okay. So if I would entertain a motion then to just certify the charges as Ms. Harkey stated, we're not making a decision on that tonight. We're just saying yea or nay to certifying the charges.
So moved.
Okay, we have a move by Ms.
Second.
Kubo Walker and a second by Ms. Berry. Thank you very much. So we will take this up at a later date. Pardon me, a vote. All in favor? Thank you. Glad y'all keeping me on my toes. Okay, so next on the agenda are four charter amendments. Number 4. Oh, I'm sorry. We have the student disciplinary appeal. Ms. Harkey, would you like to?
Here tonight, there is a level 3 discipline appeal, so this is a student disciplinary matter. So again, I ask that you not speak about the specifics of the student here. Tonight, what you are being asked to do is since they have filed the level 3 appeal, the pursuant to statute 49-6-3401, I think it is B6, the Board of Education, based upon a review of the record, which you have already received prior to this, may grant or deny a request for a board hearing and may affirm or overturn the decision of the hearing authority with or without a hearing before the board. So tonight, the request is really to the board to, again, the parent has made a request to have a hearing, and so it's up to the board to either grant or deny that hearing, and additionally, if you feel like you have enough information already through the packet, you can go ahead and make a decision to uphold, overturn the level 2 decision if you are ready.
Anybody have any questions of Ms. Harkey? No? Do you have? No? Okay. All right, so we, Ms. Harkey, correct me if I misstate this, but we can either grant or deny a hearing, or we can affirm or overturn the level 2 suspension. Is that correct? With or without hearing. I will entertain a motion around either of those suggestions.
I would move that we grant the hearing appeal.
Do I have a second for that?
I'll second.
So the motion has been made by Ms. Buggs and seconded by Ms. Bush that we grant the hearing. And so any discussion around that particular motion? All right. So with a show of hands, if you want to approve the motion that has been made, please show of hands to approve this. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So we will grant a hearing. Okay, I can do that. So is anyone opposed to granting this hearing? Okay, we have 2 that are opposed to granting this hearing. Okay, thank you very much.
Bless you.
And we will hear that at a future date. Okay, so now we get into the charter recommendations. And so I would ask Mr. Queen to come to the podium. There he is.
Madam Chair, members of the board, and Director Battle, we thank you for the opportunity to share the Charter Office Review Team's report on 4 contract amendment requests received by this office. And this is a rescheduled presentation from past board meeting. I'd like to preface by sharing with you that we had uploaded a draft PowerPoint for tonight's meeting. And during that time, we found one mistake that we have now reversed. I'll share with you tonight. And I believe I have 3 inserts we've presented to you this evening that shows those 2 of those slides. And there's a 3rd slide that we inserted new as well. I apologize for that, but we vetted this Monday with ELT, and there's always sometimes changes and things we need to do. So I did want to preface that. We have uploaded the new PowerPoint up to the web page now so that folks can go in and see the new one. TCA 4913-110, Section D, allows the governing body of a public charter school to petition the authorizer to amend the original charter agreement. Therefore, we're here this evening to do that. If the MNPS board approves an amendment, the amendment is approved to the charter school contract. If the MNPS board denies the charter amendment, the charter school may appeal to the state board. If the state board overrules a denial from the MNPS board, the amendment becomes approved to the school contract. In any of the above scenarios, MNPS remains the authorizer. Located in the reports that you have access to, there's additional data, performance data, and information beyond what we will share with you tonight in this presentation. Note that should the board vote to deny any of the amendments presented this evening, the affected charter school must be provided with written documentation for the reasons of their denial. We would like to start with the amendment request from STEM Prep Academy. Currently, STEM Prep has two charter agreement contracts that would be STEM Prep Academy and STEM Prep High School, and a standalone contract for their Newcomers Academy. STEM Prep is requesting to make a charter agreement adjustment to the STEM Prep Middle that would move the 100 Newcomer Academy students to the STEM Prep Middle School agreement. This adjustment would not change the total number of seats currently at STEM Prep. And the STEM Prep Newcomers Academy contract would be eliminated, and that would be noted in any contract amendment. STEM Prep has earned a level 5 TVOS rating every year since its opening in 2011. When looking at combined years of testing, 45% of STEM Prep students scored on track or mastered in English, language arts, compared to 34% of district students and 43% students across the state. In mathematics, 56% of STEM Prep students tested on track or mastered, compared to 36% and 45% at the district and state levels, respectively. STEM Prep collaborates with multiple community partners with a common goal of meeting a variety of needs of immigrant and refugee families. STEM purposely works to remove significant barriers to family engagement for non-English language speakers by engaging with the Tennessee Foreign Language Institute to ensure translation and interpretation services for all types of communication. STEM Prep has developed and maintained a balanced, student-centric budget with no irregularities or audit findings. This particular slide I have as an insert for you this evening. I will take just a minute to explain. If you will look at the financial impact section, you will see some numbers that are in green. What we found after we posted the draft was that Purpose Prep and STEM Prep numbers got reversed. So we've flipped those back, and I've given to you not only what are the actual projections, but also what were the original projections that was in the draft. The financial impact numbers for STEM Prep and Purpose Prep, as I just shared with you, and you've got that. As STEM Prep is proposing to consolidate the current Newcomer Academy contract, which was initially approved by the MNPS Board, Mayor's Office, and Metro Council, into the STEM Prep Middle School contract. There will be no physical impact to MNPS as enrollment will remain the same. If the amendment is not approved, upon the terms of the contract for the Newcomer Academy in 2016, the district would see an increase available budget dollars of approximately $200,000. That's taken in consideration that if 100 kids, if this 100 number of kids were not transferred into their current contract budget, about 50% of those historically transitioned back into traditional schools. So we're looking at about a $200,000 a year addition to the district budget if those kids were to transition back to traditional schools. It should be noted that STEM Prep does not offset capacity within the southeast quadrant. Pardon? It does offset capacity. Oh, it does. Did I say it doesn't? It does help offset. Thank you very much. After a thorough review, the Office of Charter Schools found the applicant to meet the requirements for submitting an amendment and have met all requirements for the requested amendment. So our team is available for any questions at this time if you have any.
So why is STEM Prep eliminating the Newcomers Academy? Is that moving to one of the district schools?
They currently have 3 contracts. They have 2 charter contracts and a standalone contract. And so they're wanting to take the children in that standalone newcomers and they're already embedded in the school. The data's already counted in the school. They're simply wanting just to move those numbers in so they don't have this 3rd contract sitting out there.
So they'll still be serving newcomers, but it will just be.
They'll be embedded in,
Embedded.
they're already embedded, into the school.
Sperry?
Would you give us the definition of newcomers, please?
There is a definition for that. I want to say that it is students who, and Kristen may be able to better answer this. I don't know if you want her to come forward and answer that, but I want to make sure you get an accurate definition.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, Dr. Battle, members of the board. The definition for a newcomer is that it's a student who has been in the country under 1 year. And as part of our agreement in partnership with the district provides us a list every year of students who meet 2 criteria. One, they've been in the country under 1 year, and they are performing at the most beginning stages of language acquisition according to the state language assessment.
I just want to say that Metro Schools has 3 high schools, Glencliff, Overton, and Hunters Lane, and 2 middle schools, which are Margaret Allen and John Early. And these are truly newcomers. These are students who are brand new to the country. It's my understanding that students who go to STEM Prep have, like Ms. McGrainer said, they have been in our Metro newcomer schools for up to a year, and then they go to STEM Prep if they so choose. But when we had this discussion years ago, one of the things that we talked about on this floor was that the idea about STEM Prep is that this would be a short-term placement, and then those kids would come back to Metro. So this feels contrary to what we were told by STEM Prep just a few years ago.
This question?
Yeah. I had an opportunity to go and visit with STEM Prep, and I was invited to come over. And as always, I'm always curious about what happens in our charter schools to make sure that they're moving the needle and making sure our children are happy. I have quite a few students from District 6 that attend STEM Prep. I was very impressed with the students. They never had a Q&A from students before, so it's pretty interesting and exciting to see these students pretty much quiz a board member about her duties. So I really enjoyed that. I did get an opportunity to see one of these classrooms, and I can tell you that I was very impressed with these students. It seemed to me that this particular ask is not asking for any more money. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. What I saw in these students, they were very excited. When I walked into the room, what really impressed me is that they didn't pay any attention to me. And that's not likely. You know, students always turn around and want to know who's in the room. They were so excited about learning. They were so excited about raising their hand, getting the answers right. And that was very warming for me because I want to make sure our students are moving forward. We do have a lot of migrant students that come to our country. And after we've seen ICE play out in this country and our students are separated from their parents, this particular program is doing something right. They are really making sure that the families are supported, making sure that not only supported, but they have a lot of networking contacts to make sure that the families are supported along with their students. So I think their ask is to have it amended into their contract because it's not costing the district any more money, any more seats. So I will support this particular ask. to have it amended into their charter agreement.
Anybody else? Ms. Elrod?
I just want a quick question. So the assumption, you're assuming here that theoretically they would lose 50 kids? Is that what what is
Yes,
that
ma'am. I
assumption
think
based on?
Based on the past, when these kinds of things have occurred, I was talking with Ron Latimer, who's here, who could probably address it more deeper, but he said there's about a 50% typically that would transfer over into a traditional school.
So has that historically been the case at STEM Prep?
I don't know about STEM prep specifically, but among charter schools.
So I'm just confused that we have this number here. We're saying there's not a fiscal impact, but that there's a potential for a fiscal impact. Is that what this is saying? I'm trying to understand.
The
this.
report or that particular slide?
This where you have the green here?
Yeah.
So there would only be a physical impact if the agreement was not, or the amendment was not approved.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I
That's
got
what
you.
they're showing.
Oh,
It's impact
yes.
free.
I didn't realize it was part attached to the not approved. I just saw
Yes.
the,
Yes.
come on, Jeannie, get with the program. Okay. I will say this. I know, first of all, very impressed with what STEM Prep has done, been a leader, been almost a, what I would call a laboratory for really great EL instruction and services. They spend over $13,000 per newcomer student, which is more than the allocation that we give them. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And is it true that there are teachers from MNPS that go to STEM Prep to observe and partner with them? I don't know if Ms.
Yep.
Stovall would know the answer to that, or if you know the answer to that.
We actually partnered with STEM Prep 2 years ago when the district was considering opening some newcomer academies, and we partnered with them. We partnered with Cameron, who has a similar program. But we partnered, we took teachers, we observed, we met with their staff, we dissected their program so that we could learn from what they were doing in order to run ours. That's correct.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So my question is the same question I had earlier, which is not specific to STEM Prep, but it's in the students column right here. Is this the number of students that attend, in this example, STEM Prep over their zone school?
Yes.
Okay.
Those are students who would be going to those schools that are at STEM Prep.
Was that already covered and I missed that? I'm sorry.
Pardon?
Was that already covered and I missed that?
No, ma'am.
Okay, I was
No,
like,
ma'am.
I'm sorry
No,
if I'm
ma'am.
holding us out. Okay, and then, so this capacity number that is given, and this is once again not just specific to STEM Prep, this capacity number that's given, is that the capacity for that individual school?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I want to make sure. Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair.
Ms. Brooks?
I'll just say that STEM Prep is another one of my schools, and they are impressive. They do good work, but the thing that's most important to me is that they collaborate with MNPS. So I just appreciate them continuing to be good collaborators with us and continuing to support kids. And this is only to shift that third charter to kind of become enveloped in the other two charters. So it's really just a technical amendment.
Simply shifting the 100 over to an existing contract and then relinquishing that third contract.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Can I
Anybody
get
else
just
have
some,
any questions?
one more question,
Tricia?
clarification on these so all of these have these tables here.
Yes, ma'am.
So the table is meant to tell us the primary impacted schools. So this is saying that this is the largest number of children per these schools. What is this saying?
The first column says students, that's the number of students who go to STEM Prep that would have gone to that particular school.
Right. But, so how were these schools chosen? My question.
Yeah, it's
Because I know there's more than these schools, right?
In the south town.
The charter schools pull from across the district, so to make it readable on a slide, I picked the top 5. So of the zone schools they pull from, those are the top 5. If you want to see everybody from where they are, we can get that to you,
I got
but
you.
it's a
Okay.
long
I
list.
was just, okay. I'm having trouble reading the tables tonight. Thank you so much.
It happens. It's the best of us, man.
All right.
Anybody else with any questions for Mr. Queen? Okay. I will entertain a motion around this particular charter school amendment.
Go ahead.
Move approval of the amendment request for STEM Prep.
Second?
Any discussion? I guess we're ready for a vote. All of that want to support the motion, which was to approve the charter amendment for STEM Prep. Show of hands, please. Yes? Any opposed? Okay, so we have a 7-2 vote on that one. Thank you.
I can't be the only one. Hey, the baby probably did make me sick.
Okay, yeah.
All right, we would now like to present the amendment request for Purpose Preparatory Academy. The Purpose Prep Charter Agreement was designed in 2012 using the slow growth model. Slow growth was designed with the assumption that student attrition would occur over time, and this has not occurred in Nashville. This was a national movement that when a charter school opened, more attrition took place on the backside of a contract, which meant they would cap, and then those numbers statistically went down across the country. So we have several charter schools who have that type of a contract. And what we found in Nashville, that there is not that attrition. So I guess we're an anomaly, or maybe nationally that's leveled out. Therefore, per the charter agreement, by year 5 at full capacity, there will be a total of 360 seats at Purpose Prep. However, the original application proposed to reduce enrollment after 5 years to 300 seats. Purpose Prep seeks approval to maintain the current enrollment of scholars. Purpose Prep was a Tennessee State Reward School in 2017 and 2018. Purpose Prep consistently was ranked number 1 in both African American and economically disadvantaged students for both ELA and math performance results within the Pearl-Cohn cluster. In 2019, Purpose Prep was ranked in the top 10% of Tennessee schools out of 2,085 schools for African American students who achieved on track or mastered status in ELA. Purpose Prep's governance, oversight, and management leadership have been critical components in its high performance. The board is comprised of local educational, civic, and business leaders who bear responsibility for the financial oversight of the school and hold its leaders accountable for sound financial management and adherence to set policies. Purpose Prep has developed and maintained a balanced budget with no irregularities or audit findings. This is the second slide where the numbers were flipped. I'd like to, and you have a copy of the updated slide with you. Purpose Prep is proposing to maintain its current enrollment. Thus, if the amendment is approved, there will be no fiscal impact on MNPS because enrollment will not change. If the proposed amendment is not approved and half of the students return to MNPS-run schools, the district would see an increase in available budget dollars of around $80,000 per year. Should the amendment not be approved and Purpose Prep must lower its enrollment by 60 students per year for the remainder of its contract, there is capacity in the area schools to enroll additional students. After a thorough review, the Office of Charter Schools found the applicant to meet the requirements for submitting an amendment and have met all requirements for the requested amendment. Once again, our team is available for any questions you might have.
Any questions for Mr. Clay? Purpose Prep?
I do have a question.
Okay,
Just to go back to the handout, just to kind of clarify for those who have it in hand. The schools that are at the bottom in the table under primary impacted schools, how many of those schools are currently priority schools? Four. I was going to say one,
Okay.
two, everybody but Park Avenue, correct? Yeah, so all the schools that are here, this goes back to the comment that I made last board meeting. You know, we get our feathers ruffled around charter schools, and we have a charter school here that is performing well and doing well for low-income and minority students in an area where, and this is majority District 1 schools here at the bottom, but they're priority schools, they're under-enrolled, and we need a plan. And again, I just want us to get back to MNPS Next, or whatever we're calling it these days, and come up with a strategy, because we're going to continue to see this enrollment number drop. especially now that we're allowing more if we allow more capacity for Purpose Prep and other schools to provide an option for the students that are not being served well at these schools.
Anybody else? Ms. Pope?
I do want to just say that charter schools' performance do have a lot, the performance of charter schools has a lot to do with the students that they serve. And, we don't have numbers on what the students look like at Purpose Prep versus in these other schools, but there are studies that say that the children of families that exercise choice, which means they have the resources to navigate the choice system, the resources to drive the children to school, those children tend to perform better on tests. So I don't think it's fair to say that this is an apples-to-apples comparison, that these schools on this list are much worse schools. The question is, who are they serving? What are the needs? And I think it's very important that we as a board focus our energy and effort onto improving these schools that are open to everyone, that are working with the very most difficult and challenging and most costly to educate students. And that's where my thinking is on this. So that's all I want to say.
Dr. Gentry.
And Ms. Rogue, I absolutely agree. And that's what I mean by my statement. We need a plan for these schools. We need to start being intentional and put some effort around that. I would say that, however, it can't matter. It matters, but it can't matter, because I still have to provide the best for whomever walks in the door. And so I can't, and I know you're not using it as an excuse, I just don't want it to come out and sound like an excuse that these schools are not performing because the mix may not be what it looks like at a charter school. That may have an impact, I don't disagree with that, but we don't get a pass, right? We don't get a pass because of it. So we still have the same level of accountability regardless of the mix of students that come into our schools. And I'm just wanting us to get some intentionality around addressing that.
Anybody else? Ms. Elrod?
I don't disagree that we need a plan for school improvement, particularly if the top 5 schools that are impacted, 4 of those 5 are priority schools. I don't disagree with that. I guess my response is I don't think the plan should be charter schools as the only primary plan for that. It is striking to me that the capacity for those schools, it doesn't show that there's a need for additional elementary school seats in that area. And so it seems like bad judgment to try to add to continue to add 60 seats or continue those 60 seats for 60 few students off the top, where all these other students need that money to be of assistance to them and that capacity is there for them. So where are we on the Nashville Next plan, or do we have a plan besides this being the plan? Do we have that?
MNPS Next. So we're in the process of scheduling our next follow-up meeting to get a status update of our studies with MNPS Next.
Okay. Okay.
All right, Ms. Walker.
I mean, I think this is a MNPS Next conversation, but it's fundamentally about parents choosing a school that will serve their children. Parents making a decision. So 50% of the students in the Procon cluster don't attend their school of zone. So the capacity issue here is not like it's just, hey, we have extra room. It's because parents are saying, this is not what's best for my child, right? And so we can talk about like who attends Purpose Prep and who attends Churchwell, or right, or who's in the community, who's not in the community. But the fact of the matter is they are like 40, 50 percentage points higher in achievement. I just don't think that as a parent who exercised choice, and there are parents at this table who exercise choice, or who did exercise choice, for us to say, you should just go to these zone schools, right? And I'm not saying, I'm here to say, I've worked in priority schools. It's hard work. I'm not criticizing teachers or staff. What I'm saying here is, these children don't have 4 years to wait, right, for these schools to turn around. This is a school in that neighborhood that is a proven model. If anything, we take teachers and staff to visit these schools. What are they doing? How can we learn from them? And then I think we do deserve to hear what's happening in our priority schools. What are we doing to turn around our lowest performing schools? I just don't think saying when you have less attrition, so you're going to have to tell some parents they just can't come back for third grade or fourth grade because we have more students coming and staying than we thought we would. That's what would happen. That's my understanding. I just think we have to. I mean, this is a tough one because Purpose Prep is knocking it out of the park in North Nashville. Full stop. And so I think that they have done what they offered us to do, and we should honor that.
Ms. Bugs?
Thank you. So I'm going to offer just a little bit of a different perspective because I actually live in the Pearl Cone cluster, and my little rambunctious, almost 2-year-old will actually be going to Buena Vista. And I've even talked to the leader of Purpose Prep, Lakewood Newman, about this, and she's told me about how, you know, Buena Vista administrators and teachers and counselors have actually come to visit. So my perspective around this is that I was a product of choice, but I'm going to intentionally put my kids in their zone school, in their neighborhood school, because, you know, as an elected official, that's just my choice to do, and I want to make sure we elevate the conversations. But this is just a school that parents have chosen, so my perspective around it is that we shouldn't be telling them that, okay, if your kid went here for kindergarten, first and second grade, we just won't have enough room for them in third grade now because we're reducing our seats. And I think that's important to put a pin here because we're talking about not adding seats, but we're talking about not reducing seats. So we're talking about being able to say to a second grader that they can stay there for third grade, for a third grader that they can stay there for fourth grade. We're not looking to add any. Like I said, I agree with, you know, all of the conversation up here about how we better support schools. I can't wait for Buena Vista to get all the support it can before Christopher gets there. But more than anything, I just don't want to be turning parents away from MNPS schools if they wanted to be there. So for that, I'm going to be supporting Purpose Prep, but not because I just don't want us to get into one school is better than the other or one should be chosen over the other. I mean, I'm just a supporter of zone schools, but that doesn't mean that the good work and collaboration that's happening between our charters and our neighborhood schools shouldn't continue because they're here. So let's collaborate with them. If they're doing well, then let's talk about it.
Dr. Gentry?
Yeah, and I just, I don't want us to leave the conversation thinking, and I know the statement was made, and I'm not sure this is what you intended, that charter schools was the first solution or the primary solution. It's not. It is an element in the bigger picture that will be options on the table as a part of an MNPS next kind of discussion. It's just one piece of a bigger puzzle. And, you know, to Ms. Pooper-Walker's statement, I don't have an answer for Buena Vista, a parent who zones to Buena Vista today. I don't have an answer for them. I don't have, and I'm not saying, and I agree with Ms. Bugs, I'm not saying that it has to be perfect today, but I don't even have a plan. I don't have a message to give a parent to say, if you stick with us, here's what we're doing today, here's what we're doing tomorrow, here's what we're doing today. I personally don't have it to clearly articulate. And so and I appreciate Dr. Battle. We're getting ready to get an update on that conversation, and we can elevate it. And I think it will lead into advocacy, what we need to begin to ask for with regards to funding. You walk into some of our schools, and the models are different because they do understand the population of students that they're there to serve with regards to classroom size, regards to the number of teachers in the classroom, but that takes money. That takes money. To do it at our size and our scale with the number of schools that we have, that takes resources that we do not have. So.
I agree that there's not like a silver bullet. If there was, we would not be here. And that's just obvious, and whether that's a charter or zone school conversation to be had. And I want to be clear that I wasn't saying that Purpose Prep is doing something not as good as other, whatever. So I want to make sure I'm clear about that. My concern is that if we have schools that need improvement, and we do, that they need to have the appropriate funds. And it seems illogical to take funds from them off the top that they could be using for their improvement. And so that's where my concern comes into play, because I too don't have an answer for those parents either, and that's exceptionally frustrating and heartbreaking, truthfully. So to me, we have to do what is best for the many, not the few. Right. And so that's where I'm landing.
That's good. Anybody else? Are there any comments or questions? Okay. I will entertain a motion on this particular charter school amendment.
I move to approve or to accept the amendment as provided.
Okay, can I get a second?
Second.
We did that? Okay. All right. Any further discussion? All right, with a show of hands, please indicate whether you are voting for the motion to approve the purpose prep amendment. And any noes, nays? Okay. Thank you. All right, you want to go on to?
We will now
Valor.
present the amendment request from Valor Network. Valor Network requesting an amendment to their current charter agreement to increase the number of seats by 355 on their Valor flagship, which is a 512 contract, charter agreement, and relinquish grades K4 on the Valor Voyager, which is a K8 contract. Valor is asking to increase the total number of seats located in grades 9 at Valor flagship, again by 355. And again, they're interested in relinquishing grades K through 4. In total, the Valor Network is requesting to relinquish 160 seats back to the district. Now, well, this question will probably come up. The K4 has not been opened yet, so those are seats that are not funded, and that's a number of grades that are not operational at this point. So they're simply wanting to not open that part of the contract in order to transfer kids to their high school. Valor Flagship is the only school in the state of Tennessee to be in the top 5% of both achievement and growth every single year over the past 5 years. The Valor Network is the highest performing charter network in the state, both in achievement and in student growth. A Tennessee Reward School for 2 years in a row, Valor Flagship is in the top 5% of the state in overall composite growth in math, ELA, and social studies. Valor Voyager is in the top 5% of the state in literacy and numeracy composite growth. For the 2018-2019 school year, the Valor Network received over 2,657 total applications, that was as of 9/23/19, for approximately 300 open seats in the fall of 2019. The Valor Network has strong student attendance with 96% for the 2018-2019 school year and a chronic absenteeism rate of 5.3%. Though Valor Voyager did receive a notice dated, and we got a hold of this 2 weeks ago, although Valor Voyager did receive a notice from the Comptroller's Office dated October 24, 2018 for running a school deficit of around $134,581, the Valor Networks remain strong physically and receive satisfactory audit reports each year without findings, and these are state-approved auditors that charter schools contract with. I will note, and I've asked charter schools who have networks they have usually a network fund balance, and I have asked them to maintain a school fund balance in the black rather than focusing on having an overall black balance for the collective network. And that notice in itself would not prevent them from being eligible for an amendment. The impact statement: if the proposed amendment is approved, the seats added to grades 9-12 at Valor Flagship and physical impact to MNPS in 2020-2021 would be a negative $580,000. For each subsequent year, once the school is built out to the fiscal impact would be a negative $1,670,000 per year. If the allocation is found in grades K4 are opened at Valor Voyager, the future fiscal impact for MNPS would be a negative $2,230,000 per year. Valor does help offset capacity within the high school tier in that area. While the Valor Network would be relinquishing 160 seats back to the district, it would be noted that the K4 seats were approved in 2015-16, and again, to date, no site for the additional grades has been selected. These additional 515 students have not been factored into the district's short or long-range projections, and it typically takes 2 to 3 years to select and build out a site for a school. After a thorough review, the Office of Charter Schools found the applicant to meet the requirements for submitting an amendment and have met all requirements for the requested amendment. Once again, our team is available for any questions at this time.
So when was the deficit made up? Was it made up by the end of that fiscal year, and how was it made up?
It was made up, I can't tell you when it was made up. They haven't received any additional notices from the comptroller.
And in the original plan, was there a schedule for the elementary school to open?
No, ma'am, there was not a date scheduled. Tennessee charter law changed a couple of years ago, and there's no timeline now for when an approved charter has to open.
Anybody else? Sarah?
According to it's slide 21, according to slide 21, it states that they'll have an immediate impact on enrollment by allowing 125 students, and that most of the students that go to Valor come from John Overton and Cane Ridge, and that they are currently over capacity at 103 and 108%. How many students is that?
Fine.
Sorry, my quickness is gone already with math right now.
Cane Ridge High School currently has 1,852 students.
Okay.
And Overton is at 2,030.
2,030. Wow. What is the projection for that? Because it's my understanding that the freshman class is a smaller than usual class.
I think Overton is going to see a bit of an increase next year. Their feeder schools have grown a little bit, and that'll translate on up.
Okay.
And I think the same thing will happen at Cane Ridge.
Okay.
Gosh. Cane Ridge was 18.
Anybody else have a question or comment? Yes, ma'am.
So if we were to deny this amendment, they would still keep those elementary seats, right?
Yes,
That
ma'am.
wouldn't change.
They have a board-approved contract for those seats.
In theory, which is more seats than what they're proposing now.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
in theory, they would, or could open an elementary school, and we would still have this, that we're not off the hook if we don't approve this amendment,
That's
right?
correct.
Uh-huh.
If there's a transfer of those seats, it would be a $1.6 million cost. If they choose to open up the middle and build out their already approved contract, it would be $2.2 million.
You mean their elementary school? Okay.
So is the thinking Valor has that they have 2 middle schools and they have 2 grades of a high school? So it's a similar story of not having attrition, right, not losing kids. So the idea is for them to have 2 middle schools that feed into this high school, and it's a complete package, and students aren't.
I believe so, yes, ma'am.
And so do you guys have a sense for what the capital, like when they build 2 middle schools and a high school, which we don't have to build, what is the capital sort of net gain for us on that, right? Because I'm assuming it's millions and millions of dollars that we wouldn't have spent.
Oh, sure. They have, they in fact just opened up their high school, which they're continuing to build out, a brand-new facility. And they have renovated a couple of existing buildings for the middle schools.
But for us, I mean, if we're not building new schools for them, for these students, right? Assuming that is also offsets our capital, whatever, needs.
I'm not a finance person, but I would assume.
Anybody else? Sarah?
So it's my understanding that Valor is concerned that we were not budgeting for the elementary schools seats. I can't speak to why we didn't budget that, because I don't work in budgeting. But my assumption is that we haven't been budgeting for those seats because they don't currently exist.
Correct.
And there's not something to budget for.
Correct.
Okay. So I understand that the fiscal impact it would be huge if they opened up an elementary school, because suddenly we have a whole elementary school that we're funding. District 2 is the home of Valor, and Valor has a very sought-after seat. They are known for all the reasons that you have talked about. They were very generous and asked me to come out and meet with them, which I so appreciated. And at the time, they were really clear that they thought it made fiscal sense. And I told them, as well as I was clear, that it would have, it has to make fiscal sense, obviously, to do it. So I really appreciate not just the impact statements for all of the schools, because I know that I kind of gave y'all a hard time asking for them. So I really appreciate that you offered them. And I know that there's a lot of red here, and it looks scary, particularly. For Valor, I know that it's a really popular school in my district, and that once again, the right decision for a lot of the people in my district is that they would want me to say yes to it. My concern is, once again, just like the past one, that we are funding one school instead of the other schools that need those seats. And it feels like we're taking money away from John Overton that needs that money for in Cane Ridge, for their increased enrollment, and giving it to a school where they don't have to have those seats. And so that's where my concern is. So with John Overton and with Cane Ridge, since they have such increased enrollment, we are saying, I just want to make sure we're clear, because it's a little bit different than what I had understood from talking to people at those schools, that we are considering that they have increased enrollment for not just next year, but continually.
Projections.
The projections are?
It would cap out in a few years at the 355 seats. It would
Okay.
just allow them to grow what they currently have in the building up to 11th grade and then on to their senior class.
Okay. And are there any plans to help relieve some of that overcrowding?
It would be something we would need to probably discuss through MNPS next. The high schools in that area are a little tight. At one point in time, there was talk of opening a middle college program in that part of town, and something like that could be quite useful.
Yes.
The long-range projections don't show that we need, like, say, another high school. We just need some relief here and there.
Okay.
So that would be one thing. If Nashville School of the Arts got built at a larger capacity than it currently is, that could also do some of the offsets. So there's some options out there. We just need to discuss them.
Okay. Once again, it's a very valuable seat for a lot of people. People in District 2 and across MNPS love Valor because it has exceptional scores, and people like their process. My concern is that fiscally, it doesn't make sense to help fund our other schools that need that funding. And once again, we do the most, we work for the system and not for an individual district. And so that's my concern. I appreciate, once again, the information. Thank you, Ryan, for being here. And I also really want to say to Valor, I appreciate them being such good team players in providing this information, and then also being forthright in providing seats back to us in their offer and bringing that amendment.
Okay, so I have some comments because I've been on the board a long time, and I have a little history on this school that other board members do not have. So I just want to share that. So a few years ago, the board voted to require charter schools to apply only in areas where there was overcrowding. And at that time, charter schools were opening wherever they wanted in order to address the needs of the charter chains, but not necessarily the needs of the district, and that continues to be the case. We've had some discussion about changing that. We tried at that time to provide direction to charter schools about student needs in the district. That year, Valor applied for a middle school, but its application did not serve to meet the board's requirements. It would not have alleviated overcrowding, which is typically not an issue at middle school at that level. So Valor agreed to amend its application to also include an elementary school, with the agreement that this school would relieve school crowding at the elementary level. The middle school opened, but Valor failed to comply with its agreement to open an elementary school. And this is significant. To now allow Valor to trade out its approved elementary school seats for high school seats creates the clear impression that Valor never intended to open an elementary school at all, which many suspected at the time that the board approved Valor's middle school application. It now appears that Valor's elementary school application was disingenuous, submitted in order to skirt the board's requirements. Were that not the case, Valor should have held to its commitment to open a school that would have helped the district with elementary school overcrowding. Our focus should be on the needs of MNPS students and not the needs of a charter chain. The application for Valor's second middle school would not have been approved without the commitment to open an elementary school. To now just trade out seats intended to help elementary school crowding for new high school seats is obviously not a fair trade. This trade is not a net gain for the district because the elementary seats that Valor promised MNPS have never existed. It's not a cost savings at all. It's not a savings in seats. That school, again, just never existed. Approving Valor's amendment tonight will have a negative fiscal impact on the district. It will also serve to increase inequities in the school system rather than alleviating them. This new high school will also have a negative impact on other schools in the area, and I've already heard from many upset parents who vehemently oppose this change, even though the school is not going to be opened in my side of town in District 9. And I think it's important, again, that we keep our focus on serving all students. And finally, I'll just note that the charter office's process for recommendations is very different from the board's approval process. The charter office is looking at specific factors, such as whether the charter school has good test scores, and that's something that can change, again, with the type of students that are served at the school, and whether there are complaints about the school. But it is our job as school board members to determine how a charter school might affect other schools and other students in the district. And we are continuing to build a parallel school system of charter schools when we cannot fund the existing schools that we already have. Again, the focus should be on best serving all students, regardless of their zip codes or backgrounds. And then I just want to make one general comment about something that continues to disturb me about the charter agreements that we're reaching. And it's something that I think we need to take into account, we need to start taking into account in addition to the fiscal impact that charter schools might have on our funding. All of the charter schools that I have visited use disciplinary techniques that seem to fly in the face of our focus on social emotional learning. For example, most, if not all, of the charter chains here require students to sit in the star position during the day and to eye track teachers or to eye track teachers. And that means that students are demerited or punished if they change their sitting position or fail to keep their eyes on the teacher at all times. Just imagine for a moment how you would feel if you had to sit through your whole day like this. I feel very strongly that it is wrong to treat young children, many of whom have experienced trauma, in this militaristic, rigid fashion. And unless something has changed in the recent past, Valor and other schools applying tonight utilize at least some of these no excuses disciplinary techniques. We must begin to treat all children with respect and acknowledge their individual learning styles. I would not allow my own children to be treated this way, and I hope that we don't allow other children to experience this sort of treatment. So I challenge all of us as board members and also as charter leaders to rethink this disciplinary model, which is falling out of fashion, in the best interest of our students. Thank you.
Anybody else? Any comments or questions?
Mr. Queen, would you mind putting up the impact slide? And I guess this is more a question for the board member from Cane Ridge and the board member from John Overton. It seems like the elementaries in that side of town are not over capacity, but the ones at the high school, I'm sorry,
The other slide with the schools.
the slide with the numbers, because it looks like the elementary schools maybe don't need another elementary school out there competing with them, but the high schools, as Mr. Lattimore was saying, could use a little bit of support just in capacity building because so many of them are either close to or over capacity. So I think that's what I've been looking at. And I hate to say fear, but my thinking is that if we don't approve this amendment, then they open up a competing elementary school in that side of town, and we're not getting any of those seats back we're not working collaboratively with this charter, because, I mean, this charter school, they've said that they would open the elementary school if they have those seats. So I think I've been just looking at this, the fiscal impact and then the alleviation of stress on the capacity of those high schools that are either at or above capacity.
It's my understanding that at the time when the elementary school and middle school contract was enacted, was the time where we were trying to cut down on some growth at some of these schools.
Okay.
And so the elementary school ended up not being built by Valor. And so some of these schools had increased availability. We built on, like Paragon Mills, which is not mine, it's actually Frida's. Paragon Mills it's been built on to Timbuktu. And it's grown a lot. And so those schools now have good capacity, as you can see here, but that is sometimes a result of there was not another elementary school to relieve them.
Gotcha.
So that there is space in the elementary school area. You are correct. Haywood is one of mine. I would like to say on Haywood's behalf, Haywood has capacity, but that is largely in part to they have a city of portables behind them, which is, I would say, not ideal. And Granbury is also in mine, and so is Cole. Granbury now has portables. Those parents are most unhappy about that. And Cole Elementary as well, they have a good number of portables too to help relieve some of that capacity. So though those numbers show that they have low capacity, as we have just talked about, it is mostly because of measures that we have taken. It's not within their already built classroom walls. It's because we've added on in those ways.
Gotcha.
Yes, ma'am.
So when did we approve the elementary school application? What year was that? Do you have that?
2015, 2016.
Okay. I just want to reemphasize, it's been a long time. There's been no intention to build that. There's been no expressed intention. And I know, enrollment's going to change, but one of the problems that we're now facing is that if we approve a charter application, they can just open whenever they want, wherever they want, at any time. Like, we can't place a limit on it because of state law. Is that correct? So, and
Law does not put a timeline on it.
Right. So, I mean, but again, there's been no movement to open the elementary school. So I don't think there was ever an intention to open it in the first place.
My understanding too, capacity does not include portables.
Oh, it doesn't?
No.
Oh. Hey, that's good news to have. That's good. Okay. The capacity doesn't
Capacity
include
numbers does
portables.
not include portables that are placed on the facility premises.
Then I have a side conversation. Then why do we have so many portables at some of those schools?
We'll defer to David Prophet, but he's got his head down back there.
Probably avoiding eye contact.
Nice try, David.
Come on.
Many times what happens is we don't have another place for the portables, and so they're very expensive to move. They're approximately $20,000 to $25,000 to move and set up. And also, many times schools want to keep them there for other types of activities, whether they be after-school programs, PTO, storage, that kind of thing. So sometimes it's the school's request. Sometimes we just don't have another place to move them.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
So there are no classes taking place in the portables, they're being stored.
Well, it depends upon the school and how they're utilizing the space. The program capacity is, as the school is currently being used, then if the school was actually full, it'd be 100% utilized. And so any that you see above 100% means that they are either have portables or they're getting creative as far as how they're scheduling, particularly at the high school level where they can have teachers that sometimes float. But the capacity numbers that you see do not include portables. That would be the actual building space. And the program capacity is how the building's currently being used.
So on the earlier slides, I think we were told that the number in the students column represented those students who were choosing the charter but were zoned to those schools. And it's not a Chris question. Lucky for you, yeah. So if Valor doesn't have an elementary school, what do those numbers represent in the students column?
Good point.
To make a comparable slide, I reverse engineered it, and I looked where Valor Voyagers middle schoolers live. So if the elementary school was opened, that's where I think the impact would come from.
But they're not opening a middle school, an elementary school?
They're not, right?
Okay.
But that's
So
where-
this is almost like a moot discussion. Numbers here, we don't really factor into. Gotcha. All right.
Any other comments? Yes, ma'am.
So you said the two-year total, go back to slide 20. So the two-year total is $2.2 million. And so that will be the permanent cost that will go on from like fiscal year 2022, 2023. That would be the continual cost going forward, or that's just the?
The 2.3 would be if they opened their K-4. If they transfer that number of elementary seats to the high school, it would be 1.6 million.
So the recurring cost would be 1.6 million each year.
If they transfer the seats to the high school. If they open the middle school, it would be a 2.2
Elementary.
transfer.
The elementary?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions or comments?
And so how much is allocated towards Voyager now? That makes sense. What's the current line item? Do you have that number?
I don't have in front of me the BEP multiplied by the enrollment.
I just want to respectfully put out there that Valor is considered a leader on SEL curriculum and what they do in the community. They're considered, I mean, MNPS has partnered with them for many years on their SEL curriculum. So I hate to categorize them as a no excuses charter school, and I just don't, I've never seen that. I've never heard anybody say that.
They are a national training center. They train schools across the country in their model. I do know that.
I'm basing that on my understanding when I saw it they were doing eye tracking that maybe changed. That was more of a general comment, but I understood that Valor was at least doing eye tracking, which is concerning to me. That's all.
I forgot to ask this early on, but when you said if the board shall deny an amendment with prior written documentation, how does that come up? Like, what's the formula to determine what is that written documentation?
Documentation if they deny.
That's a good question.
I'll let legal answer that.
The wording under the Tennessee rule, which is, so the law allows the State Department to create the rules related to amendments. And under either the rule that's currently in effect or the rule that will be going into effect starting January of 2020, the rule reads that if amendment petition is denied, the grounds upon which the authorizer based the decision to deny any amendment must be stated in writing, specifying objective reasons for the denial. So for tonight's purposes, what that would ideally look like if you were going to deny, that in your motion, you would need to state the specific objective reasons for the denial, so that then the charter office would be able to say, here are the objective reasons for the denial, and they would put that into the written letter that would then be sent to the charter office, or I'm sorry, to the charter school. So again, I mean, I think the real request is, since the action happens on the board, y'all are not writing the letter tonight, through your motion, you would have to state the specific objective reasons for the denial.
Anybody else? Okay. Seeing no further discussion, I would entertain a motion on the amendment for Valor Flagship / Voyager.
I move that we approve the amendment to Valor Flagship Voyager.
Okay, can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. All right, so with a show of hands, I would ask that you would vote on the motion, which is to approve the amendment from Valor Flagship and Voyager. Show of hands. All in favor? All opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so it's a 5-4 vote.
Crowd sway.
Okay.
We will now present the amendment request for Nashville Classical. I will catch the slides up. Nashville Classical is requesting to increase the total available seats from 450 to 527, which will be an additional 77 seats, once they reach full grade level expansion in year 9, which is 2023, and to remain at 527 students in year 10, which will be 2024. Their recent move to the MNPS Bailey School Building has provided them with space to accommodate additional seats. The Nashville Classical Charter Agreement was designed in 2012, once again, using the slow growth model, which I had shared with you earlier. And using this model, schools would build out to a full grade level capacity and then decrease in subsequent years based on the attrition rates at the time. Slow growth was, Nashville Classical is asking for a gradual increase of 112 students for the completion of the 10th year of the contract for a total enrollment of 527 students. Over the past 3 years, Nashville Classical has outperformed both the district and the state in ELA and math. This success culminated in 2019 when Nashville Classical was named a Tennessee Reward School. An important note, 82% of the current student population at Nashville Classical is part of the state's super subgroup, which includes racial minorities, English language learners, students with disabilities, and economically disadvantaged scholars. Nashville Classical's super subgroup outperformed the district and the state. Nashville Classical has not only built a strong family community, but they have developed a strong partnership with multiple community members to create a robust after-school enrichment program. Nashville Classical has developed and maintained a balanced school budget with no irregularities or audit findings. The school's current balance sheet features a healthy 120-day cash on hand, doubling the recommendation of most charter school finance experts. If the proposed amendment is approved, the fiscal impact on MNPS will increase each year through year 10, up to 2023, to a negative of $390,000 per year. If the proposed amendment is not approved, there will be no additional fiscal impact on MNPS beyond the original approved contract. MNPS does have capacity within the area if the cap remains at 450. After a thorough review, the Office of Charter Schools found the applicant to meet the requirements for submitting an amendment and have met all requirements for the requested amendment. Our team is now available to answer any questions you might have.
Questions or comment from Mr. Queen?
Mr. Queen, what was the original ask, the original amendment?
The one we're addressing today?
Yes, so the original, it was for like an additional 100-something seats.
They want an additional 77 seats.
But before that, they amended that and they wanted, what, like 120, 130?
Not sure I understand your question. Let us look right quick.
So
They originally asked for 572 seats.
Got you.
But they did work with their community partners and us as well to lower it to 527 seats.
I got you. Yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
Anybody else have any questions or comments?
Jill does.
Okay. Ms. Gray?
How many charter schools are in East Nashville?
A bunch.
We did a, do you have that? I don't have it. All of these are not East Nashville, though, right?
Well, we're looking at the different quadrants.
Okay. We were able to pull it by quadrant. Yeah, the cluster. Stafford has 4 charter schools. Maplewood has 4 charter schools. Hunters Lane has 3. Whites Creek has 2. Pearl Cone has 2. McGavock has 1. Hillsboro, 0. Hillwood, 0. Overton has 2. Antioch has 0. Cane Ridge has 4. Glencliff has 6. But I'll remind you that we have 2 schools that are ASD schools, and we also have 2 MNPS schools that are state board schools. and I believe those are in Antioch.
State board schools, two KIPP schools.
Yeah, they're KIPP schools, but they're both state board schools.
It appears to me that we have a saturation of charter schools in East Nashville, particularly. And because of that, charter schools are actually competing with one another for students in East Nashville. We certainly don't need another school, in my opinion, or even increased seats. The fact that when parents are involved in the school, children do better. We know that that is statistically accurate. When we put so much money into our charter schools, what happens to the kids whose parents are not as involved because maybe they're working 4 and 5 jobs? And so those kids get farther and farther behind and have fewer and fewer resources. So that's one of my major concerns about increasing the enrollment in this particular school.
Anybody else?
Does Nashville Classical pay in rent to us every year?
They do.
How much do they pay?
They're paying close to $500,000 a year they paid to the district for rent.
That's for how many year contract?
That runs with their charter.
Okay, okay. So that's, did you say 500,000?
$500,000 a year they pay in rent.
So over the next couple of years, they'd be getting us several $1 million, which, okay.
What side of the budget does that go on? Are those capital dollars or operating dollars? It's operating?
The rent, lease payments, operating revenue.
I'm going to go back on my history of being on the board for a while. So back in, I believe, 2015, there was a proposal to turn East Nashville into an all-choice zone, which was very controversial. And ultimately, that proposal failed. But I used to live over in East Nashville, have a lot of friends there. And as that area of the city began to gentrify, there was a big commitment from a lot of parents there to support the zone schools. And that is when Laughlin was a not very diverse school, went through renovation, and then it became the kind of school we want because it was racially and socioeconomically diverse at the time. And a lot of my friends were involved in making Laughlin what it was. Unfortunately, has now tipped the other way so that it is not diverse at all. But because we started pushing for that whole area to become choice, I know a lot of parents were very frustrated, and many people moved. There was not a commitment to support the schools there, and that's when there was the explosion of charter schools that we see now. And what makes me very sad about what's happened there is that we had a golden moment to make East Nashville a model for the city, because there was the diversity that we want that is shown by studies to improve the outcomes for all kids who have more resources than kids who are low income. But what's happened with all of these charter schools that are now competing with one another in the zone schools is that we have at least continued, if not exacerbated, the segregation that's over there. We have the schools that serve the more affluent kids. We have the schools that serve, primarily African American students, and so we have some charter schools that are serving different kinds of students. And it makes me sad, because I think that we are continuing this pattern where there is not support for the zone schools over there that should be doing well, and we've created a feeding frenzy around getting into the right choice school instead of just devoting all of our energy and resources into the schools that could be serving everybody over there, which is a pretty, less and less so, but a pretty diverse population. So I'm just concerned as we continue to add seats, we're making the problem worse instead of creating an intentional, creating a plan for the district to stop the segregation that's going on over there. And that, again, is where I would like for us to put our energy.
Madam Chair. I will say, I have to shout out that East Nashville community. Lachlan and Warner parents came together and had a really great conversation a little over a few weeks ago. And so we are talking about that and looking at that, at least as a community. And I'm happy to hear that we'll be hearing from MNPS next more regularly to kind of push these conversations forward. So this one was kind of a tough one for me in the beginning because Nashville Classical is in my district. I did help to get them into that Bailey building because they were just sitting on top of themselves. So I appreciate that they'll be paying us rent and adding to the operating budget in that way. When I first heard that they wanted 572 seats, my immediate response was no. The fiscal impact, no, we just can't. And after speaking to that charter leader, Mr. Freeman, and his community and his parents, they agreed to reduce it by almost 50 students and say, well, all right, we just want to be able to keep the 7th and 8th graders that we have. Again, I still understand the fiscal impact, but I just think about my time at Neely's Bend and having to tell kids that it's odd when you have to tell kids that they either can't go to the school that they've been going to, that there may be changes. Parents want their kids to have some semblance of continuity. And so I understand the fear about the fiscal impact, but the idea that that fiscal impact is offset by the rent that they pay us, and they actually pay us more rent than what we would be losing in students. We come up almost $150,000 in the green. And the idea that they're a collaborator, that they work with us, that they're not looking to turn students away, they just accept whoever is not on their wait list. They do have a wait list, but that doesn't matter as much to me. My big thing is making sure that the charter schools that we do have, that they are collaborating with us and we're working as a team, and looking at making sure that we are more intentional about supporting our zone schools, which isn't so much a question for you, Mr. Queen, more a question for us in this administration, because that we have to do both at the same time, but I do appreciate that they are collaborating and that they are looking to best support the middle school portion of East Nashville, which is where we traditionally have lost a lot of our students from East Nashville, period. We have some great middle schools in East Nashville, but for whatever reason, when parents get to 5th grade, they leave. But that hasn't happened in Nashville Classical, which is why they're wanting to maintain. So I just wanted to give that bit of background about what's happening, the conversations in District 5.
Madam Chair, can I give a quick update on MNPS next? Just to be more specific, we do have a meeting scheduled for next week, at which time we'll agree upon an aggressive timeline and recommendations to come to the board. We'll put that before our vice chair and chair for time to share that update with everyone, as well as any priority school specific work that's happening across the district.
And one last thing, I'm sorry. We've also spoken with Nashville Classical. They're not going to look to continue to add seats. Like, this will be it. These are the seats. They'll keep their K through 8. So again, they're heavy in the collaboration, and I appreciate that. So they're not looking to just expand and blow up or replicate. They're just wanting to share best practices and keep their students from when they come in to when they go to high school.
I'm not sure this is the right protocol, but I guess when we have our retreat, can we put this as a topic of discussion? Because I think,
can we please what?
We put a topic of discussion about this overall plan of how do you focus more towards zone schools, more of Nashville next? What are we doing as a board? What are we looking at particularly? I'm not sure when new charters are going to apply. What's the timeline? I'm assuming it's coming up fairly soon.
Letters of intent are due December 3rd.
And then when will we vote on that as a board?
That will come to the board in probably in June.
Okay. So yeah, so we have time to really think about, because it's one of the things I feel like we can't have a discussion, obviously, in an hour, 30 minutes, but that we really need to look at a system-wide approach of where we're doing as Nashville's growing and influxing with businesses coming in, bringing literally thousands of new employees, people moving, people bringing their families. What does that look like? And then what does that look like to supporting our zone schools, make sure that the resources they have, and particularly as we go into budget season, how do we advocate for that? Because I think both sides have brought some very valid arguments. And I think amendments are one thing, but I think there's a really fuller discussion we have when we bring on new schools and what that affects the whole kind of overall global approach to our school system. And I think giving an update from Nashville Next and hopefully give more direction to the administration of what we're looking for, what we need, particularly to support our zone schools to make sure they reach the level of academic excellence we're expecting from them and how to reach them. And I know some schools have different resource needs, and how do you start really approaching that, and particularly what's going on in the future? Because right now, just being the freshman person, it feels like we're not having the full conversation. What does it look like from the micro and then also from the macro? So I just want to put that out there.
Mr. Quinn, if I could make one request, please, in light of what we've seen in the past, if letters of intent are due on December the 3rd and we make a decision in June, I think most of us would really appreciate having that information, those packets, everything sooner rather than later, so we can do a deep dive into them ourselves, at our leisure.
Yes, ma'am. We will push the letters of intent out to the board office on the 4th.
Okay.
The day after they're due. When applications are submitted, once that deadline passes, we will push that out to the board office. And we certainly push out the recommendation report as soon as we can, although it takes a lot of people spending a lot of time digging and researching. But we also, normally we get that to you a week before the board addresses it. We will try to get that to you sooner if we can.
All right. That would be
Yes, ma'am.
great. Thank you. Ms. Pippa Walker?
I want to echo Frida's comments. I totally agree. That was the reason I ran, was to really have a holistic, like, district-wide approach, sort of and that's what we've been calling for, right? And Ms. Shepherd has been saying we need to sit back down and look at goals and give Dr. Battle direction. I totally agree. Couldn't agree more. And I also want to echo Amy's comments that it's true, back in the day, there was a time when we tried to put constraints on applications to only apply in neighborhoods where schools were overcrowded. But for lots of different reasons, we couldn't keep that, you know what I'm saying? There were people that applied to honor that, but it couldn't, I can't remember exactly what happened, but it didn't stay that way, right? Yeah.
Do you have the impact on the middle schools that because I see the elementary schools, and I have to brag on the East Nashville middle schools, the East Nashville elementary schools, but those wouldn't be impacted by these seats. Do you have a slide for the impact on the middle schools?
No, ma'am, we don't.
Okay.
Brian has something he wants to offer.
Come on, Ryan.
Say that when I looked at it, I again did the top 5, but they would be growing through the middle school piece, and at the moment, that's mostly coming from Stratford's middle school zone. And I could get that to you tomorrow, but that's where it is at the moment. There is a lot of capacity available in middle schools in East Nashville in general.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else with anything? Oh, all right, Ms. Bush.
Well, I'm going to struggle and tell you that I'm going to have a lot more of you coming, because South Nashville is growing like crazy. And I know I'm going to have a lot of applications from charters because I am at capacity on everything. So I don't have fear about it, but I know it's coming as we talk about our neighborhoods and our schools that are impacted by this. So down the pike, we're going to see more applications in my district. Because we're growing, we're the fastest growing. I do want to make a comment. The problem with me is that when it's a physical impact on our district, when it comes to the physical impact, that's where I kind of get a little nervous, because I don't want to take any more money from our public schools. We have to help generate those funds to make sure that our students are also taken care of, in those public schools. So that's why I'm struggling with the financial, not just, the other amendments were not as bad, but when it comes with the financial impact, that's why I have a major concern. So is it true that we are gaining money back from, which one is this, classical music? There's so many of them, Nashville Classical. So we are offsetting about $500,000, so that means we are in the green with this school?
I will say with the Bailey building, we are using a portion of that building ourselves, and so the meters are still in our name. And so that part of that rent payment, actually the majority probably of the rent payment, is just payment of utilities for that building for their share. So it's not just all revenue coming in that's offset by the cost of the utilities there at the building.
So what are we making off the, so I guess my question is, I hear that we are making some money, right, off the building, but are we still losing money?
Well, if you look at overall, the amount, I'd have to go back and look to see how much we're actually paying in utilities to see what the difference would be. That also would include security and maybe some other things. So I would want to go back and take a look to see. But I do want to make a point that that's just not all strictly revenue without any expenditures associated with it, because we're also paying utilities on that building.
Anybody else? I'm going to offer just a couple of comments. So, like Ms. Bush, I too struggle when we're asked to, when the capacity issues come down, and we're not spending enough money on our zone schools. And to me, it's just like we're giving money to schools that have little oversight, that we have little oversight over. And I guess I'm frustrated. They obviously are serving the students well, but what I will say is that as an MNPS board member, I am incredibly frustrated, because even if I wanted to vote any of these amendments down, the decision would automatically be overruled by the state DOE, and the state DOE loves to have overreach and change the vote of this board in particular. And I think local boards know best what's best for their students, and I really resent having someone at a state level reach down and tell us, no, you're not that smart, because we're going to overrule you and you're going to have to open the school or expand the school or whatever, and I really do resent that. And so I feel like I don't have a vote, because I know as soon as it gets to, voted down, it gets to the state, boom, it's overruled. And that's where I stand on a lot of these, is that I know that I really don't have a voice or a vote in any of these matters. Yes, ma'am.
I just also want to remind us that we are struggling to come up with $7.5 million to give our teachers a raise. And here we are adding $1 million to $3 million a year per school, and we've got to get our priorities right. I mean, we are creating a parallel set of school systems that we cannot afford. If they are the best schools in the world, we can't afford them. So that, again, I agree with Ann. I don't think it really matters, because the state is going to force us to open whatever we choose not to open. But there will be a price to pay in a long term because of our decisions on the fiscal impact.
Anybody else with any comments or questions of Mr. Queen? Okay. I would entertain a motion on the Nashville Classical adding seats to their school.
I move to accept the amendment.
Move to approve?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Do I have a second?
Second?
With a show of hands, please show if you want to agree with the motion to approve this charter amendment. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. All opposed? 5. The motion does not pass.
Now you need to make, I would say, a motion to deny it with clear reasons why we're denying it.
Would one of the 5 people that voted against it like to make a motion about why we are denying this application?
Mine was physical impact on the district.
Okay, you want to go ahead and put that in a motion?
Do we need to is it a number of reasons or just one reason?
That would be one.
One reason?
That would be enough.
Okay, so I'll just make a motion to, I guess, add to the nine. Based on physical impact on the district. Did I do good?
Yeah,
Good?
that's perfect. Thank you. Okay.
Smart.
What do you mean by that? Sorry.
Everything else that was said.
Oh, okay, yes.
It's not perfectly clear, but it was other things that were discussed.
So we have a motion on the floor by Ms. Bush.
Just to restate it.
Amend it, just say it, amend it for the record.
Oh, okay, so we have amended that for the record then, that motion.
You want her to
No,
say-
she has to say
You have to restate it.
Restate it.
Oh,
Here we
okay.
go again. Okay, so I would like to make a motion, or do I need to amend the motion?
No.
No.
It wasn't seconded, so it's okay.
Okay, so I would like to make a motion to deny the application or the amendment because of fiscal impact on the district. Based on, and also based on board discussion.
Second.
Ms. Spearing? Okay, so all in favor of the motion to deny based upon fiscal impact and the board discussion, please raise your hand. Okay, 5 people, thank you. Whew, okay, we got through that. So next, I do have a short board. Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, before you get into your board report, I just was trying to hurry up and get us to the vote, but I want to go back to some of the other things that were said regarding the MNPS next discussion. Just want to make a request for 2 additional pieces of information, and you all may recall, those of you who have been here a while, we used to get I think we've only seen it once, when there was really just a report that gave us the number of available charter seats, not distinguished by school. So what was the charter seat capacity by cluster? Or by whatever it was. I know we've had it, where there was that breakdown. So whether it was Nashville Classical or Nashville Purpose Prep, it didn't matter. We were just looking at it from the capacity, the charter school, that choice, the capacity in that particular choice. And I don't know if you've already done this and what effort it would take, Dr. Battle, but again, I just go back to some of the factors that are significantly different in that charter environment. Class size, the 2 teachers per room, what would be the fiscal impact to be able to do that? I mean, what does it take? And I don't think we've ever had the conversation that says, well, what does it take to really create that model of success? We've done it from looking at a solution, a program, and trying to bring that into all the schools, whether it's Community Achieves and things of that nature. It's what's the model in that classroom from not just those external supports, but what does a classroom look like that a teacher can manage successfully and have the kind of impact on the students we want to see? Thank you, Ms. Shepherd.
Sure, you're welcome. So I do have a very short board chair report. First of all, I want to thank my colleagues for their input in our session with TSBA last Tuesday in identifying a consent timeline, which we approved tonight on consent agenda. And today, each of us had at our seat the Code of Ethics for board members. It's policy number 1.106. I would ask that each of us take the time to familiarize ourselves with this important policy as we embark on this very important permanent director of school search. It's important that we could, conduct ourselves and process with this policy in mind. This policy is important to us individually and as a group, and I would hope that we can, commit this to memory, put it on the mirror in your bedroom, on the mirror in your bathroom, but just make sure that we keep this front and center as we go through a very aggressive timeline search for a permanent director of schools. I really appreciate the dedication to the students and the families across this district of each and every one of you. I know that none of us would be at this table if we didn't value the work of our faculties and staff in our schools and did not think that a successful education experience was for each and every one of our students. And also, I've been asked to read the names of the Collaborative Conferencing Management Committee recommendations for 2019-2020, and they are as follows: Angela Bailey, Enrique Gibbs, Carrie Jones, Kelly Hargis, Lisa Spencer, Harold Finch, Sean Turner, Tony Majors, and James Whitty. And all of these members have agreed to be part of this Collaborative Conferencing Management Committee. After my board report, we'll move into announcements. Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. Jill, Ms. Craig, would you give a teaching and learning committee report?
Sure, thank you. This afternoon, we had a Teaching and Learning Committee meeting, and our interim Chief Academic Officer, Dr. David Williams, shared information about the high school math course sequence. And during that presentation, he discussed 7 recommendations that will be presented to the state for high school math courses. Now, if the recommendations are approved by the state, then they will go into effect as by 2022. There was also a discussion by Jeff Smith about the visual and performing arts, which includes Music Makes Us. And since October 2018, the district and schools and metro schools have brought in over $1.2 million for music and the arts. Our next Teaching and Learning Committee meeting will be held in January of 2020. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Baring. It was a really, really good Teaching and Learning Committee meeting. It was an hour long, and we touched on 3 major topics that are very important to our students and our faculty. So I really do appreciate the effort from Ms. Bush and Ms. Baring on that. And we will move into announcements. Dr. Gentry? Okay, Ms. Elrod?
So first, I would like to thank several businesses that have recently, we'll say, invested into Overton High School. So first, it's Hiller Heating and Air. They have offered to become a branded sponsor in their engineering academy at Overton. And additionally, on October 16th, Nashville Sound spent the entire day working on their girls' softball field. So those 2 things are really helpful to Overton and to all of our schools, and I would encourage more businesses to become similarly involved. Additionally, I would like to just have some end remarks on the Thanksgiving holiday can be difficult for some families, though it's a wonderful holiday for some, it can be really difficult for others. And so I want to provide some peace and grace to particularly the families at Croft Middle School, as they recently lost a very special student. And so I want to make sure that we keep that in mind.
Booker Walker?
I want to give a shout out to our a department that does all of the academies of Nashville for the really successful 11th annual freshman career fair. So on November 15th, 5,400 ninth graders, 100 vendors, 20 schools, countless staff participated, 75 volunteers from Alignment, Chamber, and Pencil. It's a really important, huge undertaking, and appreciate all the work of Donna Gelly and her team to do that. Hillsborough was just approved for a new STEM pathway that will focus on coding and robotics. Super duper excited about that. The Borough Underground, which is Hillsborough's literary magazine, has been helping Sylvan Park on their literacy nights. Wanted to give them a shout out. And the Hillsborough Art Club just painted a new mural at West End Middle. So.
Bugs?
Yes, so I would like to give a special shout out to Theater Bug and director Corey Lamel. They were recently featured on Good Morning America for the wonderful work that she's been doing in the community for years, allowing students, creating stories, teaching students to both sing, dance, and act through these musicals. And this shirt, Wait for the Sun, was my first Theater Bug performance that I attended, and it was great. You have MNPS kids from elementary school through high school there, so thank you, Theater Bug, and for all you do. Thank you to the students from Hume Fogg Academic Magnet who invited Jeannie and I to come and speak, as well as a couple of other community members and their principal, Dr. Hargis, just about a little bit of everything around government and policy. I would like to make this known, if you haven't heard, there are 8 committees that were established by Vice Mayor Jim Schulman to address different issues around the city, but 3 that I would want you to note are: 1, dealing with after-school opportunities, so please feel free to join those committee meetings. There's 1 dealing on Metro pay, so teacher pay, firefighter pay, police officer pay. and after school, that one is being chaired by Council Lady Gamble. Metro Pay is being chaired by Councilman Nash. And then lastly, the one dealing with teacher resources, making sure that there's a recommendation coming from the community about how to best support teachers and having to purchase resources for their students, and that's being chaired by Council Lady Hancock. I'm particularly a member of the Committee about Resources, and we'll be meeting again, I believe, December 16th, 6th, 11th, 6th. At Cane Ridge, it's right before the Metro tree lighting. So, and thank you, Metro admin, Mr. North, for being there, for those of you that have joined us, Councilman Withers, but be looking out for those. So again, after school opportunities, Metro Pay, and resources for teachers. And then lastly, around the TSBA conference, I had the pleasure of sitting in on a presentation by Matthew Portell, the phenomenal school leader out at Fall Hamilton Elementary School, and he just talked about it was a great thing, all about trauma-informed care and how do you make sure you really wrap your arms around students, social emotional learning, accepting bias, working through it, collaborating, the 7 habits, just great stuff. So thank you to him. We'll end there. Yeah.
Okay. Ms. Brogue.
So I want to share a happy story tonight, a story that ended up happy. We had a kindergarten teacher at Gower Elementary, Christine Harrison, and she had a child that came to her class with shoes that were 3 sizes too small. So she declared that it was going to be comfy toe day in her class, and she'd have everybody take off their shoes so this child would not be uncomfortable. And then she called up the room mom and sent money of her own to go get new shoes for this child. So she shared this story on Facebook, and then there was a community member named Lou Will Banks who runs a community page nearby, and she was inspired by the story. So she rallied a bunch of folks in the area to donate shoes and socks for a large number of children at Gower who were hand-selected because they had the greatest needs. And Happy Feet, the shoe store Happy Feet, got involved and made a lot of donations, and they had slippers. And then Joe Dubin and Terry Bulger of WSNB came and did a story on it. And so we had kind of an amazing outcome of a huge donation that kind of came out of nowhere from this social media sharing. And so I just want to thank everybody that was involved, that gave of their time and their money to make sure these children's needs are met. And what I've seen time and again as a PTO parent in Title I schools is that when the community comes together around schools, these little miracles happen all the time. And so I just would encourage us all to think about opportunities to provide for students there in our area and across the city. Actually, there's a unicycle program that recycles school clothing for kids that need it. That helps offset the needs of the homeless population. And there are just a lot of people doing great work around this with the community schools model. We have coordinators that will help identify needs for people that want to donate and get involved. So hope everybody thinks about that, particularly at this time of year when there are a lot of needs. Christmas trees.
Angel trees.
Angel trees. Thank you for for donations for kids. There are lots of great ways to get involved and help the students in our district.
Ms. Bush.
So I'm always excited to see students get involved with their schools. And I want to give Antioch Middle School a shout out, Ms. Conley and her staff over there. They actually inducted 12 students to actually lead up their house council, which is like their student council. And I thought it was very impressive to have middle schoolers do that. And so it was a big deal. I mean, these students had to interview, they had to go in front of a camera to do their interviews. The students had to vote on them. I mean, it was just an extreme process, bless their hearts. But 12 students that are representing different parts of the school. Their motto is 27 languages, 18 countries, 14 houses, and 1 school. How about that? And so I was very proud of these students. I was there for their induction program, and I was so proud of these students. I just want to continue to say it is so important for our students to be a leader in their schools because they listen to each other. And so it was just very impressive to see what's happening. I would hope that other middle schools, I don't even know, do we have student councils in middle schools or just high schools?
Yeah.
Just depends? Okay. It would be so great to see this go across this district, that we have student councils that would be a part of having student councils because they are very important at such an early age. But anyhow, I want to give a shout out to them, and they're doing great work over there. So thank you, guys.
I would like to send my condolences to the Cox family for the loss of their daughter, and then to the staff and students at Croft. It's an unfortunate time for it to happen, and to lose a young soul is not it's a terrible thing. And then also, just to recognize that the Assistant Secretary of Elementary and Secondary Schools, the U.S. Secretary, Frank Frogan, came by to Croft Middle to tour the school and see their partnership with the Nashville Zoo, and I think it was just an awesome thing to have the federal government come and look and admire the work that he's done. He was very impressed with the school. Being a former middle school teacher and principal, he was impressed about how well it was run, how happy the students were, and how well they accomplished their academics and their social success. And to Councilwoman Courtney Johnson, who also accompanied during the tour, just thank you for her presence. So, thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank Dr. Battle and the mayor for the 3% pay raise. The fact that he did this at a very timely date today, right before our Thanksgiving holiday, certainly I think will impact all of us on the board, knowing that that is a done deal. And it certainly will impact our employees. So I'm very appreciative. I also want to say congratulations to our new appointments. Sean Bracestead, the Executive Officer of Communications and Community Engagement, and also Michael Cass, the Director of Communications. Welcome, and we know we're going to have great experiences with our new communication department. On December 6th, there will be a national and local climate strike, and it'll be an education day. Some of our students will be leaving school in order to participate in this strike. Students will have an opportunity to learn about American history and how strikes have been historically utilized, including the civil rights movement. Several workshops will be available, and students will have opportunities to share their own personal experiences about how climate change has affected their lives. On December 5th, excuse me, at 1:30, the dedication of the Transportation Building will take place in honor of Carlisle Beasley Jr. Thank you.
I just found them. Thank you. So I just want to clarify the announcement about the Teachers Resources Committee. It's actually on December the 6th from 5 to 6 p.m. at Casa Asafran. Yeah. I want to congratulate Ms. Yolanda Hockett, who has actually been selected as the president of the Haynes Manor Community Group, and is specifically focused on trying to provide supports for schools that are located in Council District 2. So I'll be sending out a communication to those principals and asking for their wish lists so that I can bring that to their meeting, their community meeting in January. And then finally, I'd like to share with you that Kevin Bayard of the Tennessee Titans and Cross Point provided take-home heat and eat Thanksgiving dinners for all the students at Buena Vista Elementary School today. And Ty Smith, who's another Titan, provided a catered lunch for the entire school today. So shout out to the Titans for their support. I'm still a Saints fan, but that's all I got to say about that.
So I just have a couple. I wanted to say thank you to my colleagues who were able to make it to the mayor's press conference this morning so we could hear from the mayor and from Dr. Battle the promise made by the former administration for a 3% raise. So this wasn't his promise, but he still had the mindset to honor this promise. And so I know that of our 11,000 employees in MNPS, they're very thankful. And so I want to publicly thank Mayor Cooper for that. I attended a wonderful TSBA leadership conference last 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks, Thursday and Friday. It was a great conference. It was a very good selection of topics. Friday morning, we talked about primarily sports. So, as much as I love sports, I really got into that one. And so we also heard from Craig Colquitt, who was a walk-on punter for UTK and then went on to play for the Steelers, where he made a lot of lifetime friendships. Primarily, he talked about Terry Bradshaw. Terry Bradshaw is a Louisiana boy, and he actually went to my alma mater. He went to Louisiana Tech University. So that was good to hear a personal note from him. And, we had the VP of HR for FedEx speak to us on Thursday afternoon, and he did a really, really good job. Dr. Brian Johnson was on Thursday afternoon. He is currently the Director of Schools in Montgomery County. He was in Hamilton. Oh, he's in Hamilton County. He was in Montgomery County. That's right. He talked about the challenges that they have in Hamilton County, which are very similar to ours, with the exception of we have two that he didn't mention, and that was the economically disadvantaged students. He did not mention, nor did he mention the high mobility rate, and we have both of those challenges in MNPS schools. So it's a very good leadership conference. I'm glad I got to go. I hope everyone has a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday. I hope you're looking forward to spending time with we are looking forward to spending time with our children and grandchildren. And if you're traveling, safe travels. Being there for other business, this meeting is dismissed.
I've just seen a motion.
On the motion.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.edu.